what about this one? Arsenal 2-0 up and cruising. Then it was 2-2. James Justin, who, by the way, brought in double Arsenal defence on his Fantasy Premier League wildcard. He benched himself. So not only does he lose his points for scoring twice, but he's ruined his defence by scoring twice against the two Arsenal players that he brought in. But that's fantasy. It's not real life. This was an Arsenal 2-0 up and cruising. Won by 2 goals, Janusz. That doesn't really tell the full story, though, does it? How big a win is this for the Gunners? And what does it say, once again, about the late show under Miguel Arteta?
Look, this team, Arsenal, is learning how to suffer and win. And that's big for me, right? I'm not going to, it's easy to look for faults in this performance. I don't really know how to, especially because they saw it through. Because at first, I saw a team that looked worthy of champions, right, in the first half. I mean, absolute control. I think they completed like 93 or 95% for the 94% of the passes. And then after that, it's, I wrote it down. This is how you lose the Premier League, when it was 2-2, but for no particular reason whatsoever, rather than sloppiness. And they saw it through. I mean, still absolutely dominated. I think, the set piece right after halftime. Okay, I mean, Arsenal should know better, right? Because they score plenty of set pieces themselves. So very sloppy on the second half. But, I'm not a bias here, but I'm glad they won it, because I wouldn't have wanted to explain to everybody why they lost it, because there was absolutely zero reason for that, because that was, to me, a total domination. And as I said, if suffering was the case against Manchester City with 10 men and getting it done, which, by the way they did it, they had it done, I have zero problems with that. Today, it kind of, if I were Arteta, it would even put more smile on my faces, because that's another different way of showing the character and spine.
Yeah, I mean, the character's the perfect word that Janusz has used, LME. It took me back to a goal by Reiss Nelson, like in the 800th minute of stoppage time back in the day. But good teams find a way, and Arsenal did. How did they avoid being in that position? The second goal's a worldie from James Justin, but the first one's a bit scrappy. Was it complacency? What was it that led Arsenal to have to scrap and do whatever they could in order to get the 3 points, having conceded those 2 goals?
Honestly, I think, like Janusz said, it was a bit of a frequency of occurrence of a fixture, because in that first half, Arsenal could have kept going and going and going. And these things do happen. And I think Leicester, what they did well was that at the when they were equalizing, first, like you said, just the second goal from James Justin was just unbelievable. But there were also moments as well where Leicester just decided to match the ugly with what was going on the pitch, so they were able to equalize. But after that, Arsenal just kept pushing. I actually think Miguel Arteta did a really good job at introducing Ethan Nwaneri, who's just a wonderful young talent. Yeah. Raheem Sterling did his part. It was Gabriel Jesus' drive at the end that got that last goal as well. And we have to remember, this is still happening without their architect, Martin Odegaard. And that's a massive hole to fill in. And I think Arsenal did that. It wasn't a pretty game towards the end, because Leicester did equalize and they were trying to make it difficult. And the goals, specifically from Leandro Trossard to equalize as well and take the lead, was not pretty either. But just like Janusz said, you have to find a way to get victories, especially at home. It was a disappointing thing when they drew against Brighton because of the Declan Rice sending off. But here, at the very least, they made it happen. And that's what takes to make a champion. Because not every game is going to be aesthetically pleasing. It's going to be ugly sometimes. And again, it's very important to rely on your bench, especially when you miss the likes of somebody like Martin Odegaard. Mikel Merino is not available yet either as well. David Raya, we didn't know exactly if he was going to start. So this is a good win. And when you look at the statistics, everything was there statistically for Arsenal. It was just taking care of business in front of goal, which is what happened. Kai Havertz, by the way, is slowly becoming or not even slowly, he's already here. He's becoming a very important player for Arsenal. He's doing a lot of things for this team that Arsenal need, that they didn't have in the past as well.
I think Arsenal fans would tell you he's probably underrated outside of the football club. They know how good he is, and the Arsenal teammates know how good he is. He was actually going to be part of the next question I wanted to ask Janusz, because without Odegaard, it's a different type of setup. Usually it's Martinelli or Trossard. It's now both. He's got Havertz in an advanced position. Sometimes he's got him in a more withdrawn position. Compare and contrast this Arsenal setup, Janusz, not just in this game, without Odegaard, compared to what we have with Arsenal when Odegaard plays.
Oh, it's, I mean, again, I did not think that Arsenal were going to survive the way they have without Odegaard. He's by far their most important player in every aspect of the game, not just to the likes of Saka, who, the combinations on the right hand side are superb. The 1-2 play, the playmaker who can score himself, who, by the way, does so much work defensively, can actually win a ball defensively as well. This is not just him tracking and willing to do the work of running and backtracking. He wins the ball as well. He's superb in pressing. In fact, he's usually the one that starts the press very often. So again, the fact, they're getting that much closer to Manchester City and everybody else for that matter, right? Because you look at that team, and now all of a sudden, they're getting results even without him. And this is a, pretty long period of time not being there. So I just think that everything that we've said in the past about Arsenal, maybe the lack of character, is showing in the game against Manchester City today without Odegaard, right? Even a personality like Calafiori, certainly personality on and off the pitch, and you could see it today. Although obviously on that second goal he could have done better. Almost seemed like Calafiori was playing the third striker, where Mikel Arteta was probably maybe quietly telling him that defending may be the first option the way the game has gone. But so much is evolving with Arsenal on the plus side that it's very difficult to poke holes, because I'm honestly telling you, when Odegaard went out and we knew it was going to be a long period of time, I thought better results will follow.
They didn't, or they haven't just yet. You chastised me earlier today, as you normally do, for some silly questions, but I suggested that the pendulum might be swinging towards Arsenal's way by way of favouritism. The UK bookies have now got them as favourites over Manchester City, Janusz. So does that make City the value play? And is it right that Arsenal are now favourites for the Premier League after today's results?
I'm not changing anything. We've seen it for Manchester City. As I said, the worst it can happen to them is that they're going to be 1 point behind. And that's with Liverpool and Villa. Still to play. We absolutely cannot overlook Liverpool. Not at this stage. Manchester City has proven, of course, over the years that they can get it done. Villa, sorry, LME, I think they'll put up a fight, but I don't consider Villa as one of the teams that can challenge for the title.
That's okay. I agree.
Finally, to you, LME, we've seen from Leicester this season, especially the Spurs game, when they could have been 5 or 6 down at halftime. They end up getting a point from that game. Today, their expected goals, and I'm not a big fan of that, but their expected goals was something like 0.27, and they ended up getting 2 goals from it. Steve Cooper looks like he can make a lot out of a little in this league. So out of Leicester and out of Ipswich and out of Southampton, the 3 teams that came up, where would you say Leicester are placed out of those 3 as far as chances of staying up, because they can make a lot out of a little?
It's really difficult, because I see all 3 going back down, just because the difference between, we've talked about this before, right? The difference between the promoted teams to everybody else is so big. I think that Leicester, I would probably put them out of those 3 at the ones the closest that could maybe escape it, only because it really depends on, one, what you just said, which is just make it sticky against teams that are far better than you, and B, your home form. If you can do something at home, get some victories, especially around against the teams that are around you, then maybe something can happen. I mean, we still have to wait and see how Wolves are going to continue to do this, because they have their own issues. Everton obviously got a victory today, but they're still suffering. But those 3 promoted teams, I think, are going to go back down. Leicester possibly with the best option, just because of also the experience that Steve Cooper has as well in this division. But everything depends on home form. Everything. You have to try and get anything that you can when you're at home.
The other games today, Brentford drawing 1-1 with West Ham, scoring, I think, inside a minute for the third game in a row, which is a Premier League record. Everton getting that win at home against Palace, having gone a goal down, and Fulham with a win after VAR told the referee to have another look at an incident inside the box. A penalty was awarded and it was put home.
The return of Raul Jimenez,
Jimenez, indeed. So that's what we've had so far. Wolves-Liverpool still to come. We'll be back straight after that game for a full recap of what's happened at Molineux. But it's been some days so far. 4 for Cole, but Arsenal get the same, but they left it late. Bye for now.